along swiftly, darlings. Now, this story, my mum brought this to my attention, okay? So I thought I'd do a little bit of investigating into it. And it's about Invictus Games and how Harry needs to step down. It was run in the New York Times and, of course, GB News. And that should tell you very much how closely related those two things are, or those two publications are, in terms of their content and the things that they peddle. And given that this article, in my opinion, is a collection of puff, flour, and potentially vapor, I think Nika Shakhnazarova will be a contender this week, an early contender for Sycophant of the Week. Nika Shakhnazarova, please do come and take a seat. You are a contender this week from the New York Post for Sycophant of the Week. Don't touch any of the hors d'oeuvres, and the pie that you want to contribute, nobody wants to eat it. Please take it home when you leave. So one of the reasons I'm giving Nika Shakhnazarova from the New York Post the accolade this week of Sycophant of the Week is because, first of all, she writes this rather stupid title. Prince Harry could be forced to quit Invictus Games. Here's who would likely take over. So the first thing you're supposed to think about, firstly, is that he could be forced out. She's trying to capture your interest in her article by giving you a negative news story. She doesn't give any indication how he could be forced out, but her opening salvo is, Prince Harry may be compelled to relinquish his role as patron of Invictus Games, potentially creating a leadership void at the helm of the foundation, according to a report. Really? What report? Pray tell, Nika. Nika Shakhnazarova, I cannot pronounce her name, I do apologize, but what can I say? Without some elocution help, it's going to be sounding rather butchered. Anyway, Nika Shakhnazarova goes on to tell you that those people who are close to the situation see Harry as a divisive individual. According to those close to the situation, Harry's approach and divisive reputation in the UK stands in the way of his legacy at the foundation. Now, when I read this, you know what the first thing I did? First of all, I read the article and I thought to myself, this is nauseatingly poor. She's definitely going to be a contender for Sycophant of the Week. But in addition to that, I went and looked at what Invictus Games is and who owns it. So she talks about a report and how it can be pushed out, but she doesn't give any indication as to how this can take place. And this is the reason why she's Sycophant of the Week, because she's done no background reading. She's just a mouthpiece for sending detritus into the ether about the Sussexes. So let me just give you a little background as to why this cannot happen. And it potentially, this is actually not quite the case. There could be some changes, but it's not a case of a report that Nika is being availed of, because she hasn't even done the basics. Prince Harry is the founder and patron of the Invictus Games, and it's a charity, and it was set up in 2014, and it has a board of trustees. So if you think back to Centre Barley and how his charity was infiltrated, deployments of the Green-Eyed King who wants everything that Harry has, they went in and they disrupted Harry's program via the trustee board. So potentially, there is the scope, depending on how robust the governance procedures are for Centre Barley, for there to be a change in the trustees, and for those trustees to have a change of direction and therefore look elsewhere. However, the report that Nika makes reference to as the basis of that happening, frankly, I haven't been able to see any evidence of it in her article. Like I said, this article is just an exercise in puffery. She cites sources that are close to the situation that can give information about how the legacy of the foundation is being affected by the prince. This is also, once again, disingenuous on her part. None of those sources are even named in the article. She then says, and there's a quote, the Duke has become an increasingly divisive figure, particularly in the armed forces. According to who? Sorry, Harry should have been the person who should have been the Colonel-in-Chief of the Army Corps, but instead they gave it to the Green-Eyed King. He actually served. Not one of those people have ever served any time. Harry's the only one that's been to actual scene active combat, as far as I'm concerned. So how can you say, according to this article and this particular sycophant writing for a New York American audience, that he is a divisive figure within the military? Just because you say it, Nika, doesn't make it true. And of course, the source is not named. You just got quotation marks. The source further goes on and says, if Harry were to resign as patron, I'm sure they would have no trouble finding a new royal patron. Please, we don't need any more of those paper patrons, those puffed up individuals who are like paper mache. They are full of absolutely nothing. It's just the shell. We don't need anyone like that. Harry is the face of Invictus. And the only reason these individuals are bringing this to the fore is because they want to create a problem, because he's coming here for the next Invictus Games in Birmingham. And look at how Harry is. He's actually extended an invitation to those individuals. So the Invictus Games, according to Nika, is going to be here in England in 2027. However, they have a difficult situation because Harry has extended, like I said, an invitation to them. And really what I'm very proud to see is that the CEO of Invictus said in a statement that they were proud to have Harry as their patron and their founder. The Invictus movement stems from his ideas. Don't forget, he's the founder, just like with Centre Barley before those detractors came in and destroyed it. The Invictus movement stems from his ideas and his passion for the international community of wounded, injured and sick service personnel and veterans, born out of his military service and experience and his understanding of the power of sport to change lives and save lives. So the fact is that unless some major thing happens, there is no reason why Harry will no longer be the patron of Invictus Games. This is scaremongering, scandalizing, creating a narrative of contention and negativity. And Nika, let's get her name right as I scroll up. Nika, where are you? Nika Shakhnazarova from the New York Post gets this week's Sycophant of the Week for actually allowing herself and allowing her publication to be that kind of bugler of detritus masquerading as news. Thank you so much, Nika Shakhnazarova from the New York Post. You are this week's Sycophant of the Week. Take a bow, you deserve it, darling. Your writing was foul, and your peddling of propaganda didn't go unnoticed. Nika Shakhnazarova from the New York Post. Thank you and good night.